people go survive, oh, Nigeria go survive. Nigeria go survive. Africa go survive. My people go survive, oh, Nigeria go survive. United Shield Nigeria, Nigeria go survive. Nigeria go survive. Africa go survive. My people go survive, oh, Nigeria go survive. Nigeria go survive. Africa go survive. My people go survive, oh, Nigeria go survive. United Shield Nigeria, Nigeria go survive. Nigeria go survive. Africa go survive. My people go survive, oh, Nigeria go survive. Nigeria go survive. Africa go survive. My people go survive, oh, Nigeria go survive. United Shield Nigeria, Nigeria go survive. Nigeria go survive. Africa go survive. My people go survive, oh, Nigeria go survive. Nigeria go survive. Africa go survive. My people go survive, oh, Nigeria go survive. Hello, good evening, world. Good evening, world. In Mr. Wally. For everybody watching, you're welcome to Live with OSA Post COVID-19 Nigeria What Next series. It's so exciting to be doing this in this season when we're all gradually coming out of the lockdown, coming out of the forced captivity of sorts in air quotes. And whether we like it or not, we all must prepare for the new normal, as they call it. And there are several things. When I started off this series, I was like, look, things are not going to be the same way they were when we went into our homes, when we left our businesses for the times we left them and all that. And most importantly, whether we like it or not, the different pillars of influences in Nigeria, I'm not talking about any other part of the world, because they have their own issues. But in Nigeria, the pillars will be affected. And there's no greater pillar than the pillar of governance. That is why today we're coming out of the gates with post-COVID. If you're on YouTube, I want to let you know that for the next 1 hour, it promises to be exciting and captivating. For we have with us today in the house one that is, most of us know him, and he's called the Godfather. He's Kingsley Wenenda-Wali, and I will just give him a few moments to just introduce himself to those of you who don't know him already. Mr. Wali, over to you. You're welcome.
Thank you for having me, Nane. Well, my name is Kingsley Wenenda-Wali. That's all that is to do, really.
Yeah.
An unemployed Nigerian youth. Looking forward to any kind of engagement by way of employment from any well-meaning Nigerian who knows where to come from. So if there's a job vacancy somewhere, so I can engage. I can engage.
I'm laughing.
So my name is Wali, and I'm just the regular Nigerian on the street. Yeah.
Yes. So you're welcome, Mr. Wali. So today you're here because for me, I'm so happy to be on this side, because I remember about 5 years ago, you were on the interviewer seat. I remember it was today's FM when you were then, running with Freedom Avenue, and I was on that program with Onene Obele. Yes. So today we're talking about governance. And like I said, told the people, I said it's going to be a no holds barred session. But first of all, what has informed your interest in advocating for good governance? Because I'm going to start from that point. What was the catalyst that made you start advocating for good governance?
Good governance is the only way you and I can be sure of a better tomorrow for you, for your kids, and our children unborn. Because society develops to a large extent is dependent on the level of emphasis that is placed on government and governance. which presupposes that we shouldn't see governance or government as just the normal thing that some just exist. Government should not just exist. Government should exist to better and assure the society of a better tomorrow, at least for the benefit of all, precisely. So I think that if truly I think I want to be comfortable, I believe that I want to be comfortable tomorrow, it should start with the level of interest I place on the people who determine the dynamics of tomorrow. Yes, God is the ultimate determinant, but we as human beings must to see to it that those who are entrusted with the responsibility of piloting the affairs of the state get to do the right things. I mean, those who determine the terms of engagement. So
you keep on saying those. Who are the those? Who are those?
To a large extent, I think the government operates like an association, and then you have a board of trustees, you have the managers. So government, to a large extent, is run by the board of trustees. So I'm saying that you and I can only be involved in the process of enrolling or appointing this board, these trustees. So what they do with that mandate that we've given to them, it's what affects us ultimately. Yes, we eventually have the right to say, or rather, we must accept the fact that we have the right to ask them to do it this way, that this is what serves our interest the best. And then if they're not doing exactly the way we desire, in the ultimate interest of society, then we should equally take the next bold step of asking them to give us some space so that we can move.
Good.
That's why I keep saying those. We all cannot run government.
We all cannot run.
Yes.
There must be people who are entrusted. And in this case, in this case, in our nation, Nigeria, we're running a democratic system. So, of course, the different tiers of government and the people there have been entrusted with this thing. So, you know, like this program is all about post-COVID-19 Nigeria, what next for governance? Let's say up until March 2020, Nigeria has been run a certain way. With the exigencies on ground now, what, in your own opinion, are the expectations for how governance is all one and the same thing, in my own opinion, how it should be run to serve the purpose for which it's been created?
Well, like I said earlier on, I think that it's a responsibility of all. Government does not just appear. There's a process through which government is formed. And we must stop thinking that it's like some shop. You just go and pick up stuff from the shop, pay, and then move on. It's not transactional. It's a process. And we must all participate in the process at all levels. The time of policy formulation, implementation, as well as engaging the government or the trustees, like I've said, and ensuring that the quality of delivery is in the best interest of society. We don't sit down and say, we have put people in office, let them do as they feel. They can't do as they want, because ultimately we are going to pay for negative outputs from those who have entrusted with the responsibility of managing our collective, our commonwealth. So we must accept that it's a responsibility of all. We, the people, those in government. Do you understand? So, like I say, what is government? Government of the people, by the people, for the people.
For the people, exactly.
It was never government of the people, by some people, and for some people. It's for all of us.
So, in other
to be engaged in the process, yes.
And that's bringing me back to this very, very important question. It's supposed to be government of the people, for the people,
Mhm.
by the people.
Mhm.
We've said this is going to be no holds barred, very objective session,
You can call it
not
on.
trying to pander to any. Yes. So, in your own opinion, Mr. Wali, right where we are, yes, like I said, let's imagine that a nuke was thrown in March 2020 and everything in the past. No, I want us to just assume that a nuke was thrown and we all went in and we all imagine now. In your opinion, would you truly say that what we have, of course, we all know what it was like before March 2020, but right now at this point, and moving forward, do we truly have a government that is for the people and by the people?
Well, I'll try as much as possible to be charitable to those who are in authority today, but it's not going to be an open check. I would say that what has happened, it's a wonderful thing.
Okay.
Painful as it may be to some people, because I can't imagine anybody who lost a loved one to COVID-19.
Yeah.
Hearing me say that's a wonderful thing that happened. It's wonderful in the sense that it brought to fore a lot of things that were taken for granted in our country.
Okay.
For example, the issue of food security. It was COVID that actually brought home to us as a people, as a country, the reality of the fact that we can't feed ourselves. And no nation can truly say to be one nation, to be a nation rather, if it can't feed itself. The boundaries were shut. Do you understand?
Exactly.
We couldn't import food into Nigeria. Within the country, the boundaries were shut too. Food couldn't come from
Exactly.
certain
Interstate
parts of the
movement.
country
Yes.
to the others. Do you understand? And we found out,
Yes.
I had governments trying to open food stores, emergency food stores, because we were not prepared for it. If we're dead, how long do you want to store yam, for example? You can store dry food like rice, like beans, but we're not all about beans and rice.
That's
How
not
long
sufficient for anybody.
how long were we going to store food that is perishable? We were not prepared for it. So first thing first, COVID made us or reminded us that we must, as a people, think of how to feed ourselves, because it could have been a war between Nigeria and a foreign country, and then it would have
We
been more
probably will have starved to
devastating.
death.
Yes, it would have been more devastating. Don't forget what Chief Obafemi who said that starvation is a legitimate instrument of war.
Exactly.
They said so. I'm not sure I have those facts, but I had that kind of thing. What I'm saying in essence is that if it was a war between Nigeria and another country, or very civil strife between, like, take for example, our state, Rivers State, where I stay, where I'm operating from right now, there was a crisis between Rivers State and any of the states that share common boundaries with us, and we can't get food into the state. You know what that will have led to? We now became a people who were virtually surviving on bread, so to speak. But that
Bread. Yeah, bread
that bread
businesses
was
experienced the
that bread was
boom
going
then.
to, yeah, the Bible says that man shall not live by bread alone. Not so. It was said somewhere in the Bible.
Yeah,
Now, what
sure.
I'm saying is this, we will have gotten to the point when the bakeries would have had issues with flour and wheat.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So we would have had bread.
Most of them were
What would
most of
have
them were
done?
operating on stockpiles.
Do you understand? So
Yes.
the first major thing I think that COVID brought home was the issue of food security. Now that takes us to this. Did the government learn? Did we learn? That is where I think we should be.
That's the big question.
Not asking
That's the big question.
if we are actually having a government of the people. In definitive terms, Did the government
Okay.
take away anything? The government, both the state and the federal, because the local governments don't exist really. What steps are we taking to say, for example, if there's a second wave of the pandemic,
When everybody has to go in, when everybody has to go in again.
Are we ready? Are we ready? What are we going to do? Probably do the same thing we did the last time. Shut down the markets, shut down the boundaries. People are crying that we can't obey shutdown.
That'll be unimaginable. We can't begin to
obey
imagine
it
that.
because we don't have food, which takes us again to the next level of how much interest do we pay to the other people in society who cannot feed, who no longer work, the pensioners and the unemployed, the restless youths. What steps are we taking to ensure that we don't get to the point where, just like in America, people will not say, we don't care, you are killing us, Black Lives Matter, is that we're dying of hunger,
but
we matter.
Let me just quickly interject.
Yes, please do.
Let me just quickly interject, Mr. Wali. But you know, Nigeria would argue that we're not a welfare state. They would argue that we're not a welfare state.
It's not about a welfare state
that?
It's not about being a welfare state or not. All of that is grammar. One of the fundamental principles of government, one of the biggest responsibilities that the government has towards the people is the issue of welfare and security.
Yeah, dividends of democracy, as they say.
You understand? The Constitution clearly stipulates the fact that the basic responsibility of the government towards the people is to ensure that their welfare is taken care of and that they're secure. And that security includes food security.
Exactly.
Yes,
they say a hungry man is an angry man.
Precisely. The government cannot plant yam and cocoyam and plantain, but the government can create the enabling environment for people to do that. What does that take us to? Somebody living in Eche or living in Abua doesn't need to live in
For those of you watching, that's River State in Nigeria. Eche and Abua, or Abua, yes.
So you mean they don't know Eche and they don't know Abua? Are they serious?
Most people might not know.
No, just kidding.
It's not here.
Eche is actually it's one of the what you call the food baskets of River State. So people should get to know that. Just like Abua too, you have a lot of stuff.
I need Eche Gari. I've been crying about Eche Gari. I miss it in Lagos.
You have long truth.
Yes, so Eche Gari is sweet.
So I think to a large extent, we must, as a people, as a government, begin to plan. It might not be COVID the next time. It might be something more drastic than COVID. Are we going to still go back to this issue of not knowing? People saying we cannot stay indoors. You're telling us, stay safe, stay home. I don't have food at home. So I'd rather go outside and die.
You know the funny thing? I'd just like to ask a question somebody here is asking. Somebody's saying government, or somebody's making a statement, and I want you to just throw some light on it. She's saying the government, let me put it on the screen so you can see. It says the government can create an enabling environment to do so. And that's saying what you said. So what kind of enabling environment? What are the parameters for this enabling environment?
Basically, the first thing that the government should do is look at what do we do to create commerce? What do we do to create commerce? What do we do so that food can come from the hinterlands? For example, you can plant cassava and yam in the streets of Port Harcourt GRA. People in GRA have money to buy food. So you must create opportunity for those who have food in Eche, in Eleme, in Kana, in Abua, to come freely and bring their goods to Port Harcourt, sell and quietly go back to enjoy the sweat of their labor. Do you understand? For example, how do you want people to farm in Eche, in a large scale, when whatever they produce at the end of the day, whatever they harvest they have at the end of the day, they cannot come to Port Harcourt because there's no route for them to come.
There's no road for them to come.
What I'm
That's
saying
true.
in a nutshell is that government must link up the state with other productive areas of the state. So there'll
So you're
be a
now saying that. So you're now
relationship
saying, okay, continue.
those who are producing and those who are going to buy. That
So you're
would
now saying
encourage
that.
those to produce more.
Yes. So you're saying for food security
Yeah.
to improve post this season, the
Yeah.
links in terms of the roads should be better, transportation should be made, much
Because
easier for these people.
if we have roads, then naturally it follows that people are going to put their cars on their vehicles on that road to transport goods from the rural
Yes.
communities to the cities.
Okay.
So if nobody's going to buy a truck and put it on a road that is not sure
Bad
that the
road.
truck.
Yes.
Do you understand?
Okay.
So
Yes. Having said that, right? Because
Yeah.
I want us to go into the nitty-gritty of most of the things we had planned. We're going to discuss. One other thing I want to quickly say about this food security, because I know in a talk we had when you said something about this idea of people having lost value and lost their values and not prepared to even farm. We're discussing things like things that used to be indigenous to the South, for instance. We now have it being brought from the North. Because I remember saying that why most people are not farming in the North was because of how Boko Haram, is pillaging their farms and all that. And you said to me, then how come the potatoes that comes from the North, the carrots that come, and even going as far as to say that even udara that usually used to be indigenous to the South is being brought from the North. Can you explain? You've spoken about Eche, fine. You've talked about Abua, fine. Why was there the incident of near starvation in a place like the South, where just amongst ourselves we could have had enough food for this season?
I think it has more to do with government policies than even the people. For example, the government has not placed emphasis on agroeconomy. They've not been able to let the people know that there's something called dignity in labor, that you can actually be comfortable with whatever you're doing if you're practicing agriculture. We're growing up in schools, they'll tell you before the petrodollar. We knew that around the world, before IT came, the guys who break the bank with their money are people who are in agriculture, one form or the other.
Yes.
And
the groundnut pyramids, etc.
Yes, we've not been able to let people know there is nothing dishonorable about being a farmer. The moment you know that if you can actually feed yourself from the things you do with your hands, it's more likely than not that you're going to engage your hands rather than coaches from one office to the other. Let me paint it this way. You are a university graduate.
Okay.
You're looking for a job. You end up in a job with a job where you're paid 150, 200, 300, 400,000 naira. And you have to stay in Port. And then you have to pay for power, you have to pay for transportation and all of that. At the end of the day, that money they pay you as salary is worthless. You've lost all of it with transport and lunch money in your office. Tell me what somebody would do, even if you're not a graduate. Talk about your minimum wage is 30,000 or 20-something thousand or thereabouts. Tell me what anybody will do with 30,000. The other side of it is that because 30,000 naira is not going to be enough for you to do anything with, you will have to do other things to make ends meet. And that itself is a trickle-down effect. It has a trickle-down effect of making you susceptible to all kinds of corruption. Let's put it that way. So I think government has to create development centers that people will know. For example, in the Calabari areas, the riverine areas, it's not embarrassing that we have people who are not from this region, who actually are the fishermen in our region. And you will hear people say, oh, we no longer fish because the oil companies have polluted our rivers. That's not true. That's not true. Go to most of the water sites where they sell fish.
That's not true.
The latest fishermen you have around this our region are Northerners.
They're Northerners, exactly.
A bulk of the dry fish you see, they now import dry fish.
Exactly.
They now import dry fish from the north. Let me surprise you. Because of COVID, no movement. I was stuck in my house.
Yeah.
A friend of mine now comes and say, Godfather, I just harvested fish from my pond. They had a small pond. And he brought the fish,
Small pond, yeah.
catfish, and it was so sweet. What did I do next? I looked at the back of my house. There was a space. I have a pond now.
Are you serious? You know, that's the thing about this season. It just made people, it became expedited things in the lives of people.
I have a pond. Whatever that I have in my pond, if I have a storage for them, I can eat them. I can feed my family for another 2 or 3 years. That is if I have to domesticate what I have. The other kind of it is that because of the experience I've gotten from that, I'm not developing a fish farm for commercial purpose. That was
and it can actually evolve into something else if you so wish, you know. So
that's
I
the point I'm making.
what you're saying is true, you know.
I just acquired 4 plots of land where I'm going to build my fish farm. So because of COVID, now I understand that I can actually do this. So if government is
quick one,
great opportunity,
continue.
People will know that you can do this. And what happened? Even the fingerlings that I'm using for my pond, I got them from Taraba, in the northeastern part of Nigeria. I do not know if I've lost you or if you're still there.
Continue.
Yeah, for a second I lost you.
No, you could continue. The even though you lost me, the audience was still able to see you. Yeah, so continue.
Thank God I didn't do anything silly, believing that.
Thank God, though, because they can see you. A quick one before you continue, Mr. Wali. For those of you who are indicating that you want to join, what I'll do now, I'll post the link on the thread. So you can actually wait in the waiting room, but I just advise that when we give you the link, still continue with the program till we ask you to come to the studio, then you can just quickly. So I think the earlier you actually log in, that click on the link to enter the studio, the better, because we only have a limited amount of people that can come in at any time to talk with Mr. Wali. So, Mr. Wali, because there's still so many things we need to get into.
Yes, I was going
so
to
somebody
say that
asked the question here.
After the agri, okay, somebody asked a question. Let me run with that first.
Somebody asked a question and said this, and this is going to tie in with our political process. She said, let me quickly put it on the screen. She says, how do we partake in a process that does not value its citizenry? And, you know, I plan to ask you this. The process we're talking about is a political process. And with the recent happenings, you know, I mean, I don't know about other people, but I've been so appalled at the way people cross carpets. I remember back then in the 70s when I was in school, primary school then, and I used to talk about a democratic system of government. Cross carpeting used to be this big, you know, big thing. They used to give us example of parliamentary system in the UK and all of that. Before you become a crossover from it being a Tory to being Labour and all of that, you know. But now, it's amazing. Somebody is in this party today, the governor, the very next month, he moves to the other party. There is an exchange, there is a switch. What kind of ideology drives our politics in this country? Because if there is confusion at that level, what then the hope for the citizenry, as this lady is asking? Over to
They
you,
say every,
sir.
they say every society gets the kind of leadership it deserves.
That's
Yeah.
harsh. That's
No,
rather
it's not.
harsh.
It's not. If I want things done the right way, you understand?
Mm-hmm.
I must engage the people involved from day one. I'll give you a practical example. It's a
Okay.
long story. It's a long story. We don't have all of the time to deal with that. But what I can
Okay.
tell you for sure is that what you see today is a consequence of how the political parties evolved.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give you a slight background.
Do go ahead. Thank you.
As far back as 1978, 79, when the political parties were formed, everybody knew this party belonged to the left. MPN was a conservative party.
Yeah.
MPP, GMPP were the middle of the road, middle of the center,
Mm-hmm.
left of the center, more or less, of the political parties. Then UPN and the PRP, you could say they tilted towards some tinge of socialism, more of
Mm-hmm.
a welfarist political parties.
Yeah.
We left that system, got to the point when the military decided to create political parties for us. But even the military was sensitive enough to create parties that were, represented the interests of the right and the right of the center, and then
Exactly.
the left of the center. What did we see after that? The suddenness, probably, of the emergence of the Fourth Republic.
Mm-hmm.
People were in a hurry to get to take over power from the military. First and foremost, there was the G34 or something, which transmogrified into the PDP.
Okay.
And when they formed the PDP,
Was that the
late
one
Chief,
that had article then? That had article.
yes, it was part of the
Okay.
formation of PDP.
Yes, I remember then. Yeah.
Chief Bola Ige, late Chief Bola Ige, was in
Yeah.
charge of the committee that drew up the manifesto of People's Democratic Party.
Wow.
Now, they fell out over the issue of where the presidency is probably going to go to.
Mm-hmm.
Bola Ige and the rest of them, Hamid, Kusamatu, Alaji Shinkafi, some other people, now moved to All Progressive Party, APP.
APP, I remember.
The same Bola Ige was given the responsibility of drafting the constitution or the manifesto of APP. I'm sure you're with me.
Wasn't that a case of chalk and cheese? I
The
never
same
knew
man,
that.
the same man who wrote the manifesto of PDP is the person who wrote the manifesto of APP.
So was it just his scribe? Was it just his scribe? Should I say his scribing prowess that he was asked to do that?
The
Because
most
how
important
can
thing,
somebody write a manifesto for two essentially different group of
well,
people?
he was the chairman of a committee. That's the point I'm making. But the fact, the
Okay.
takeaway there is that he wrote, or they wrote the manifesto of PDP. It was never going to be any different from the one he wrote for APP. When they disagreed, they said they couldn't be in the same party with certain people who played some not too honorable roles under the military. He
Okay.
moved to go and form the AD.
Opposition now, direct opposition.
So he formed the AD. Right there, he equally wrote the manifesto of AD.
For the
So
AD.
tell me, yes, tell the Alliance for Democracy, tell me how the manifestos were going to be any different.
They were all the same, apparently.
Precisely, they were just vehicles provided for attaining power. So there was nothing different from APP, PDP, and AD. It's still the same.
Still the same thing, just
And
different.
difference. You understand? So to a large
Yeah.
extent, the parties were formed in such a way that it was impossible for them to have ideological background.
So in
People
other
just
words,
wanted,
you've taken us to the foundation. The
people just
foundation
wanted
was
power.
faulty from the beginning. People wanted power
Precisely,
at all
precisely.
costs.
People just wanted power. And then when they gave and there was the other side of it. Now, a lot of people did not believe it was going to work. It's a normal thing. They will just play around that the military will come back. So the elite, the middle class of
This is
Nigeria
interesting. This is
did not
interesting.
really take part in the political evolution of the Fourth Republic.
They left it to, these people, let them just go play around and
Well, yes. So, and you know what they say, it's easy to give monkey cup. To collect the cup from monkey, then come
that
become from.
issue.
You
So
understand? So,
it wasn't anything any of them bargained for, so to
so let's
speak.
not talk
And
about
that's why we are
ideology.
where we are. Yes,
Let's not talk
okay.
about ideology. People just want power. They gravitate from A to B, from B to C, and come back to A and all that. So I don't discuss it. And then I try to see how much people can get involved and see if there's a possibility that a greater mass of people who feel good or who feel bitter about what is happening and want to change the system will come together and see how much they can push. And people must know that democracy is not a sprint. Democracy is a marathon.
Democracy is not a sprint, it is a
It's a
marathon.
marathon. It's a
I have to type
marathon.
that in. Democracy is not a sprint. Continue.
It's
As you're speaking, I'm actually doing a lot of typing because I'm not just taking this as any talk program. I'm taking it seriously. So I'm taking notes.
Yoruba say Walomo.
I'm taking notes.
So
Democracy is a sprint.
people must get into politics, but not with the ultimate ambition that they must win the next election. Grow a system that maybe in 10, 15 years, 30 years, you'll have been in a position to have a system that is run on ideas and ideology.
So you're saying it should
Until
be
we
sustainability.
precisely.
Sustainability.
That's why
Okay.
it is a marathon. That's why it's a marathon and not a
Not a
sprint.
sprint.
So if I need to link that up with the question that my
The
winning
lady
winner,
asked, yeah.
she said, how can we, when the politicians, so to speak, the system does
Don't
not
allow
take
the
into
citizenry.
consideration?
Yeah.
Yes. Now, it's the way the citizenry has placed themselves. When you collect money from me to vote for me
So
in an election,
you own me now. He who pays the piper.
I don't own you, but I don't owe you. I don't owe
Really?
you.
But that's
Yes.
a different perspective.
I have paid you off. So don't
Wow.
expect anything from me. Don't. Now, people talk about political parties. Do you know there's no party in Nigeria that pays membership dues? People just I'm a member.
Wow.
Nobody pays membership dues. And how can you be a stakeholder in an association that you don't pay dues?
That you're not paying dues to.
Because if you pay dues, you say, hey guys, hold it there. What have you done with the money that we contributed?
So you're now
There's
talking
still,
about the aspect of accountability. Accountability.
it's not just accountability. That is what ties the system to a responsibility towards the citizenry. How many Nigerians actually pay tax? We don't pay tax. No, we don't pay tax.
You're,
What did I
you're
do?
going to see. You're bringing out the legs of the Nigerians. We are talking about the governing people this time.
No, what I'm trying to say here is that
No, but it's
your
serious talk, though. It's serious talk.
your
Yeah.
responsibility as a citizen begins with when you do your own bit. When you do your own bit, then you can hold the other person accountable. Like I started, I said, if on election day you collect money from me to vote, where the hell were you expecting me to go and get that money from? If I got that money from the bank, for example, I have to pay back. If I borrowed money from somebody to run an election, I have to pay back.
Oh my
Where am I
goodness.
going to get that money from? Certainly not my salary. Certainly not my
Oh
salary.
my goodness.
From the roads
Then
I was
if you
supposed to
had,
build for you,
then not even just even the bank. If you had people who were your sponsors, like what we hear happening in the US, like they say, oh, Russia did this, Russia did that. They paid you, so they must dictate the tune to you. So
you
not
don't know
even
what
the
they say,
people
that he who pays the piper dictates the tune.
dictate the tune. So
So
right now, what
for
you're trying to tell
example,
me,
if for
continue.
example now I have a candidate, and I bankroll his election.
He must listen to me. Godfatherism then comes into play. Not your own kind of
If he doesn't pay
godfatherism,
me,
but there must be
pay me
godfatherism.
back the money, then I'm going to arrange for his kidnap inside the government house.
You remember what happened with Ngige back then? I think we had quite a lot of that.
I didn't call anybody's name.
Sorry.
I'm just telling you what I will do. If I spend millions,
plausible deniability here, please.
if I spend millions to sponsor somebody, do you understand? Then I'm going to get my money back. And if the guy decides to be not to say he decides to be independent, he say no, you can't be independent.
It's his problem.
You can't use my money to the whole essence of
Mr. Wali, my money. Sorry. Somebody is eager here. Says he wants to ask you a question. Is it okay if I bring him on right now to ask you whatever it is itching to ask him? So bringing on Wabiye Idoni Boye now. Wabiye, you're welcome. What do you have to say or ask Mr. Wali? You can hear me?
Thank you, Auntie Ann.
First and foremost,
so the floor is open.
Let me congratulate you for your efforts at becoming the chairman of the president of the IYC. And
Thank
you.
It was take solace in the fact that that you didn't win is no big deal, but that you gave it your best. It could be president
you did good, Wabi.
And that's what I always ask young men to do. Give it your best shot. If it doesn't work, it might work the other time.
Congratulations, Wabi. At least you know what it is to have
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, you are not honorable.
I agree. No, Godfather, permission to remove that from my name, sir.
No, anybody that runs election in Nigeria, you become honorable, whether you pass or not.
Okay, sir.
Go ahead.
Good day. Auntie Ann, thank you for this opportunity. It's a very good platform.
No,
it's very important that conversations like this happen often, because when we have conversations like this, we our minds open up to realities of life. So I'm happy to be here. The Godfather, permit me to call you that because not the only name one, and that's the only name I'm permitted to call you.
Exactly.
My concern, or the major issue, or the major topic I want us to talk about is governance. In everything we're talking about, if we don't get governance right, then we are just wasting our time. You said a couple of things, and I was taking notes. A couple of things. You answered a couple of my questions, but the bottom line is, our democracy hasn't even started yet. We feel we have a democracy in Nigeria, but we don't. The government is supposed to be a representation of the people. The government is supposed to reflect us, not we reflecting them. What do I mean by that? The governor is supposed to be answerable to the people. The governor is supposed to take instructions from the people, which is in the way our democracy works, which is the National Assembly. The State Assembly. The president is supposed to, the president is supposed to take instructions from the people, which is the National Assembly. But it doesn't work that way in Nigeria. In Nigeria, the National Assembly is at the beck and call of the president. In Rivers State, sorry to use our state, but in the state, the State Assembly members are at the beck and call of the governor. So it really doesn't work. Now, if we have a governor, we are talking about COVID. COVID is a medical issue. It's a worldwide medical health pandemic. And if you don't have a leader that listens, then you're in trouble, because the leader knows nothing about healthcare. The leader knows nothing about the effects of a pandemic. If the leader knows nothing about food security and rest, then we're still in trouble, because the leader knows nothing about all those things and he's not ready to listen. So I always tell people that we haven't started in our country yet. Nigeria, I will call it, to be fair and kind to us, I'll call Nigeria for now a joke. Sorry to say that, because we can't move forward with the way we are going. The president will leave, another president will come, the governors will leave, other governors will come, but it's still the same process that will come over and over again. The president will choose his National Assembly people, the governor will choose his House of Assembly people. Then now the governor now dictates what happens in the state. If there's a health crisis,
let me interrupt you here. Just let me interrupt you here, because you're hitting at the fundamentals of our conversation. Governance
Exactly.
does not just appear. There's a process for bringing those who get into political offices and become the governors. When I mean the governors, the assembly members or the legislators, the executive arm of government and all of that. Why don't we look at it from this point of view? You're worried that the government is not being responsible. That means the government is not reflecting as representatives of the people. Have you bothered to ask yourself, these people that you expect to reflect your interest, how did they emerge in the first place?
How did they get in there? How did they get in there? That's what I was going to interject to.
So
How did they get in there?
if we do not actively start the agitation, the advocacy at the level of the process of bringing people. Don't forget, I started by welcoming you, or when I welcome, I said it was a wonderful thing that you gave your best shot.
Exactly.
You
And you said
understand? You now have a
congratulations.
better idea of an electoral process. I'm sure that if you're running for IYC presidency tomorrow or another election, you have a better idea of how to progress. Consistency is what I'm talking about here. Let us bother more about the process that leads to emergence of this governance. You understand?
But so that process, sorry to interrupt you. So
Excuse me.
that process is what I'm
Let me
talking
just quickly
about.
interject here. Wabi, quickly. Sorry, let me just interject here, Mr. Wali and Wabi. You know, the thing is this. I believe, right? I know I'm just here facilitating, but I just want to just say this, and maybe Mr. Wali can take it up from there. I believe that if all we do is to keep on identifying what the problem is, without all the challenges, without coming up with a solution, because when we're talking post COVID-19, what next? We saw a lot of things that happened even while there was this gradual easing off of the lockdown with what happened in the National Assembly concerning NDDC, with what is happening even with Karma and all of that. And Mr. Wali has said something which I consider very, very, very important. If we keep on saying the president goes, a new president comes in and all of that, these people coming in, they're not spirits. These people coming in, they are like you and I. So they didn't just get in there. Mr. Wali started this program off by saying, at a point, he said, people get the leaders they deserve. You understand?
Yes.
So if we do not address the fundamentals, which is like lawyers will say, I'm not a lawyer, they say something about ab initio, how it started. Mr. Wali has here told us, giving us a backstory, which I never was aware of how this thing started, because I used to be worried that how come PDP today, this person jumps from here? Is it that there's no ideology? There's some people there, like something that's currently going on now. I've been thinking to myself, but I thought this man was a socialist before even he became a politician or whatever. He was an activist. So why then this change and all this wavering up and down? But Mr. Wali has given us a picture today, painted a picture that, look, there was nothing like ideology to start with. All these things were cobbled as a result of convenience. So right now, we keep on saying these people. What I need to hear, and is what I hope somebody will tell us, what is the way forward?
Yeah.
What is the way forward?
I'm getting very worried that we're running out of time, and then
No, continue. No, we'll know what to do. No, go ahead, Mr. Wali, because there's still so much you have to explain to the people. So
when you have somebody like Wabi coming on, do you understand? Then it simply means that we can be here till midnight. Do you understand?
No, I just need 2 minutes. I just need 2 minutes.
No. What I'm saying is that I'm not trying to flatter him, but it's a man that runs with ideas. And
I know, we know Wabi, and I know Wabs very well.
I challenge his type, those who are close to me, that if we're ever going to move forward in this country, the younger ones must learn to be angry. If they're not angry, nothing is going to change. Nothing is going to change. Do you know, I sit down sometimes, I make posts on Facebook. I have a sympathy for the All Progressive Congress. And then I'm a member of the All Progressive, that's the APC.
Yeah.
And I say things that I feel that are wrong about that going on with the party. Younger elements will say,
and they
what
attack
kind of
you. They will attack you. Yeah, they will attack you.
Internal party affair, I'm bringing it onto Facebook. And I'm like, seriously? 30-year-olds who are supposed to be angry and abusing everybody in power are rather abusing me for bordering to bring
No,
out
but
a
you know the
problem that
thing
they
is,
all know
you
is
talked
going wrong.
about the piper. You talked about the piper. You talked about what happens with the political system.
No. Sorry. Sadly, they are neither being piped nor are they even piping. They don't have any idea of what is happening anywhere. They just want to be identified to people who are supporting Wabie. And Wabie, and I say, Wabie, why did you do that? They just shut up. Why are you questioning Wabie? Wabie is asked for 2 minutes. So let's give him his 2 minutes so that I can quickly run through
Okay.
the other things.
Yes.
Because what we have done
Yes.
actually
Yes.
is agriculture and food security.
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Wabia, go ahead.
Thank you for the 2 minutes. So something else just came up as from the last point the Godfather made. The youths, yes, we have our own issues. Our own issue is a very big one. Like you said, we are not the pipe, and we are not the piper, and that is still
We're
boils
not the
down to what the
pipes.
elders have taught us. We are not the pipes, and that still boils down to what the
Well, neither
elders.
they pipe. They are neither the pipe, the
Or the
piper,
piper.
or they are
Or the
piped.
piped.
Nothing. They
And
just
sir,
exist.
that still boils down to the what your generation handed down to us.
Yes.
How will I put that?
I publicly stated that on radio everywhere that my generation messed up politics, especially in Rivers State.
Yes, sir. And I always call you the bridge builder because I see you as the person that can actually
Flyover.
fight for we younger. Fight, no, not the flyover, sir. The ones that can bridge the gap between the people that have failed and we that are planning to try and change. We that are trying to change the system. Yes, the youth. If you look at most of our youths on Facebook and ask them what they do. Part of my campaign when I was running for the IYC president, when I go around meeting delegates, the first question I ask them is, "What do you do?" Because if I am aspiring and I don't know what you do, I will not be able to help you. And you find out that most of them don't even know what they do. Most of them don't even know what they can do. No, most of them don't even know what they want to do. So
They
that
want
becomes a big
contract.
problem because you just have a bunch of young people idle minds, and they don't even want to do anything. And that boils down to your generation, sir. What you people have taught us is just that just to sit down and shout on Facebook or carry guns, maim your brothers and sisters, and you get rewarded with an appointment. That has happened for so many years. So that has become the norm. And we can't change it. We won't be able to change it because we don't have the resources, we don't have the voice, we don't have the manpower.
I will
When
not
you
agree
say
with
you can't change it, you have
Sir,
already
all you need
that's a
to do.
defeatist
All you
strategy.
need to do.
at the end,
Wabi, all you need to
yes,
do
sir.
to begin to change the system is just to be angry. Just
That's
once,
the
No, we are
once
not.
you're angry. I participated in elections. All of the big men in Abuja and Port Harcourt, they don't even know where the polling units are. They just come with their families
Very
and
true.
police, vote and go away. It is the younger
Very
ones
true.
who stay back, destroy ballot papers, forge election results, mutilate results. These big men are
Exactly.
not there. Why don't you do it for yourself? Why don't you mutilate results for yourself? Why don't you destroy
They
ballot
go
boxes?
to their homes. They go back home.
Sir, no, that is because these young people that are doing that are people that have been groomed over the years to do that particular thing. I won't leave my house. I started getting angry from 2015. I've been following the politics since 2007. And I left Rivers State on the night of the 2015 election because of what I witnessed in Buguma. That same night, me and my friend Amy drove to Abuja. We stopped in Benin, slept in Benin. And as I left Port Harcourt, I didn't come back. I started my family in Rivers State because of what
So
I saw. I went to Buguma.
Go ahead, sorry.
What? Okay, sorry. Wabie, can you hear me?
No, the
Wabie?
important thing we should understand is
Okay.
yes, Antien.
Wabie,
Yeah,
go
the
on.
important thing we need to understand is that the important thing we need to understand is that those set of people that are doing this mutilation and doing all the election violence and election rigging, that's they've decided to do that. They get rewarded for doing that. I can't do that. I don't have guns. I don't even think I know how to shoot a gun. So I can't face those people. That is now the norm in our politics. Except that is changed, and that's where I'm coming to. That's the point where I'm coming to. Changing that perception or changing that strategy, the only person that can change that strategy are the people using those boys. Now, how do we get those people that are using those boys to change? That is where people like you, Godfather, are coming, because it's a clip. All of you, there was a period, some pictures of the early, I don't know whether that was 70s or 80s, we're going around on Facebook where I saw you in parties, all of you, everybody was together. The Ametis, the Wickes,
Now, you
everybody.
want to
They
bring
were
my leg
united.
outside, go ahead.
No,
So if you don't,
sorry,
if you
sorry,
don't
sir.
bring my
Your
leg out
thing.
today, you won't rest.
No,
Hey,
permission to bring your
Jesus.
leg out, sir. But what I'm trying to say is that back then, all of you are united. So all of you are together. All of you are friends. All of you are family. I believe that if you want to speak to the governor of your state now, if you call him on the phone, if he doesn't pick, he will definitely call you back because people have history. Now, people like you are the ones that should try and start changing this narrative. Call them on the phone and say, come, bros, okay, your tenure at the end. This thing, if we continue like this thing, nobody, it no go ever better. Let's try and start changing these things gradually on our own. I believe that is the only way because we from under, we've tried. Me, I've tried.
Okay.
I know. I know that.
What be
I think
the
that when
Godfather
YBA comes, we'll be here till midnight.
gave you 2 minutes,
Okay.
but you've
Okay.
overshot it. You know what? You know what's going to
But I
happen?
don't want him to go. I don't want him to go. I want him to listen to something. I mean,
Okay.
the points that he raised are very germane, but I need to remind you of something, and that's this. If you're expecting the generation that destroyed River State or Nigeria to fix
To rebuild it,
it
won't happen.
It's like saying that those who fought for independence of Nigeria should have waited for the white men to say, okay, we want to leave, come and take over power. It won't happen. As recent as South Africa
It will
here,
never have happened.
the blacks didn't wait to prick the conscience of the white minority rulers.
They took it. They took it.
They literally took it. Do you understand?
They took
So
it.
what I'm
They
saying
took
here,
it.
is I'm going to relate my experience. You know, when people say the youths are lazy, I don't agree completely. What I think that is lacking in the youths is that anger. They are not angry. When they are angry, they will change the system.
They're not angry
You were in
enough.
you were in Nigeria. I was in a meet. I was just normally I sit down with my younger friends on Saturdays. We'll sit down, have breakfast, just play. And then somebody comes up and says, look, Godfather, this is what we're doing. Can't you participate in the process of bringing a governor of River State? And I'm like, how do you want to do it? He said, we can sit down, bring up somebody, campaign for the person. It sounded idealistic, very romantic, no doubt about it. But with persistence, a name came up from one of them. A name came up. And we drove that process. We drove that process to its logical conclusion. Where did we have problems? Younger elements who were abusing us. Some people accused me of collecting money. The older ones, they couldn't look me in the face and tell me trash. They couldn't. They dared not. But it was the younger people in society who were abusing me, myself, and my friends. We went
And they have so
around
much
all the
effrontery
local
these
governments.
days.
We went around all the local governments in Rivers, apart from Bonny and Donny. And I saw young men come out to be part of the process. Some place we went to, they didn't have money to host, so they just brought garden egg. We ate and left and campaigned and left. It was young men who drove that process. It wasn't me. It was not me. It will interest you to know that no human being, living or dead, added 1 naira to that campaign. Just to confirm to you that you don't need to wait for people in authority to change anything.
You don't need to wait, Wabi. You don't need to
All
wait.
you need is anger. People who are willing to say, we don't care, you can't do anything to us, this is what we want to do. And
we have one small problem, sir.
Sorry?
What is it? What is the challenge?
Sir.
What's the problem?
What is it?
Hunger.
A lot of people who worked with me on that project. I told you something. I don't want to mention, so let it not be as if I'm robbing.
No, don't do that, please.
Let me not rob a local government. Of all the local governments I went to in River State, only one LGA that the people that demanded for money from us. And we told them we didn't have money to give to anybody. All the other local government people, we campaigned under the rain, under the sun, went to different places in this state. We probably did not get the result that we wanted at the end of the day, ultimately. But we gave it our best shot. And I still have those gentlemen with me. God willing, they're going to be there. We will still be part of the process. Today, I engage people with a post Some young little boy somewhere, you understand, probably in his late 20s, say, you don't come again. We'll know your hand. We don't see your hand. We don't come again. As far as it's concerned, something nasty. This is somebody who should jump onto the plane and be part of the process. Now he's seeing me
But
as a corner. So,
something. Sorry, I
if
just
you're
need to
seeing me as
interject
a
at
corner,
this point.
if you see me as a cornetist, because I'm trying to encourage young people. I was obviously the oldest man in that team. Nobody was there that was anywhere around my age mates. None of them. I encouraged them. And they were willing to do whatever that was needed to be done to make sure that there are people who just did nothing.
Everything just goes smoothly.
They were suffering the net to come up with information and all of that. That campaign was run on zero financing from anybody outside the group.
But do you know something? Sadly, right now, let me say the majority of the youth we have who are probably in politics in one way or the other, they don't believe you can do anything without money. Wabia, you said something here. You said we are hungry. If you listen to what Mr. was saying when he was talking about that, it was giving us that illustration with the fish. How that man brought fish that was very tasty, and he looked at his backyard and saw he had space, and now he has a fish farm. The thing about this thing is most of the youths are not ready to get their hands dirty. What we're trying to see and we hope for is that post all of this pandemic, there's this, so many people, there's very soon oil, like I was discussing yesterday with Mr. Wali, we're talking about the economy when he was talking about the need to return to agroeconomy. All this oil, all this crude they are protecting in the high seas, all this bunkering they are doing, there'll soon be a dearth of all of that. You must be angry in your hunger and decide to make a change, make a move. What can you do? What can you bring to the table? When you talk about Mr. Wali's generation, forget the bad ones who sort of went off the reservation and started doing bad things. At least I know for him, with something like Unity Foundation, they are doing so much to impact people. So the youngsters, most of you have millennials amongst you people. If you come to a city like this, millennials are beginning to make waves. But sadly, in that part of the country, today, when we're talking about post-COVID, we're not just trying to put, the light on River State, because that's kind of where our conversation is going towards, and I'm trying to avoid it. I got Mr. Wali because he has this national coloration, and I don't want us to spend too much time because the youth in River State are not yet angry enough.
Whatever happens here happens in almost all the states of the federation.
All the states. That's what I was going to say, exactly. So it's not just River State that have youths that are not angry enough. They are hungry, but they are not angry.
Some states of this country that people are mounting that they are put on, they are somebody's private estate. Somebody's private, it's a fiefdom. Somebody's in charge, somebody's a lord of the manor.
In fact, it's a fiefdom, you got it, exactly.
They can create an illusion of what they are doing.
Everything being okay. Everything being okay. So the thing now is, Mr. Wali, what should they do? Mr. Wali, what should they do? What should they do?
No, like I said,
what should these young guys do, Mr. Wali?
We like YBS said, we'll have a role to play. For example, he talked about having to mentor people. I remember when in the course of our campaigns, I went somewhere. The meeting was about 11 o'clock, and the hall was full. And I said to them, if anybody's expecting me to be excited that this hall was full at 11 o'clock, no. And 70% of the people in the hall were people in their 20s. How can any society progress when the young ones who are supposed to be the engine room of productivity, you understand, are politicians?
Yeah.
In quotes. You understand?
What happens to the other pillars? Who are occupying those things?
It's just a testimony of the fact that the state has failed. The state as a country, as a nation, not just River State. And I moved on. I saw a group of young men who sat down with bloodshot eyes, and I'm like, I went to them. I was talking to them. And I said, I was talking about why people go around killing their friends because politicians have asked them to go and kill. How dare you kill your guy that you play football with? you drink with, you socialize with, and at the end of the day, because it's another party, you go and shoot him. I noticed that one of them was just staring at me. I left where I was and I walked towards them. And I started talking to them. This guy, tears started dropping from his eyes. What happened there was I was talking to him.
Wow.
Without knowing, I was talking to him.
Meanwhile, you were not in front of him.
Yes, with a bit of consistency. You understand? That kind of person can change. And I reminded them, I said, look, listen, I'm not going to hold you responsible for what you have done. It's the wickedness of the ruling elites that has put you there. But take it as a challenge. Confront them and be a better person by challenging them and making sure that society is a better place. That's the only way you can confront these people. Like what BA has done. I'm sure if he was president of IYC, he would have been able to contribute his bit. It's quite cerebral. But I know that.
Yeah.
So let him continue on that route. He shouldn't move away. Voices like him should come up. Young men should come up. Forget about personal relationship with certain individuals. Learn to be a rebel, for God's sake.
Exactly.
Rebellion is legitimate.
Rebel with a cause. Rebel with a cause.
Rebellion is legitimate. Those who demonize rebellion are the beneficiaries of the decadent system who are scared of change. True change. They will now put a tag, throw the mark of negativity on rebellion. Nothing is wrong with rebellion. Let the younger ones learn to say no.
No.
Let them learn to say
no. No.
So
they should learn to say no.
I would like to quickly touch on a couple of other things before we leave. We talked about agriculture, food security, and all of that.
Yes, food security, yes.
So there's a need for government to do something about food security, which is something that's come up from our experience, you understand, of COVID.
Yes.
There is we knew that our health system was in tatters.
Wow.
It did not really come home. It was COVID that brought the reality
of our health system. Yes.
Now we now realize that we shouldn't pay lip service. We shouldn't pay lip service to provision of health
adequate
services.
Health services. Yeah.
Health services. Do you understand? There is something that's happening now. We're not at the stage where thousands of Nigerians are dying because our system is immune. Suffering has made our system immune to some infections. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, I remember somebody said to me that they were on a queue at one of the supermarkets to buy bread. Then when they got to the door, some guy was going to check them. The guy and I said, okay, what they check me for? I don't understand since. This man just come from motor now. It's the blue. And when they come, the temperature not go right. My own go right.
The temperature go low.
I did some since. How my temperature go high. What I'm just trying to say here is the suffering that Nigerians have been made to go through.
Made us immune.
In itself has its good sides. That's, for example, you ask yourself, why is it that you don't wear a shirt and you walk around your house when it's cold and you catch cold? But the madman on the street doesn't wear anything. He's beaten by rain. You understand? That is where Nigerians have got into. That is where Africans have got into. That is why that COVID is not killing us the way it killed.
The way Melinda Gates predicted.
You understand? So, but we must not take that for granted. Today it is COVID. It might be something else tomorrow. Don't forget that Ebola, which I consider a more deadly disease, came to Nigeria.
In fact, we're not as scared of it as it is.
No, it's more deadly. Ebola doesn't give you any chance. Just as much as COVID gives you a chance. It's your choice to die or not to die.
True.
Ebola doesn't give you that kind of opportunity.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying in summary is that COVID brought home the fact that we need to do something about our health facilities, about healthcare delivery. We need to do something about it. It's what we need to go to school. I agree.
Sooner than later. Sooner than
We need to
later.
improve, we need to improve our the level of education. Yes, I know we
Yeah.
need to do all of that, but people need to be alive
Yes, to do
after
those things.
eating.
Yes.
You need to eat
Yes.
first to be alive. Then you need to be healthy to go to school. I'm not saying that going to
Yes.
school
That's
is not a big deal. It's a big deal. But let us
true.
de-emphasize, let us
That's true.
de-emphasize certain things. And then people say, oh, the World Health Organization, this information is this, blah, 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 because
Said this, said that.
yes. But you need to, first of all, you need to eat.
No, listen to you.
If you don't eat, you can't be
Yes.
healthy. If you're not healthy, you can't go to school.
Yes.
So we need
Sometimes you might be sick, but it's actually hunger. It can be hunger that can make somebody sick. You know?
we need to do something about healthcare delivery in our system. COVID has exposed us, but is government listening? Is government seeing it? Do you understand? And are the people engaging government screaming that we have escaped COVID? Not completely. They are
Not
predicting
completely.
second wave. They are predicting second wave.
Second
We
wave,
don't know
yeah.
whether it will come. We don't know whether it will come. We pray it doesn't come because we have
Amen.
suffered
Oh,
enough. We have suffered
we
enough.
have
Even God in heaven
that we
knows
have.
that bringing
We have
COVID
suffered
again,
enough.
it's like
We have
dead body
suffered
dying.
enough. We
It's like
have
dead body,
suffered enough.
yes,
Have
it's like dead
suffered
body
enough.
dying. How can you
We
kill
have
dead body?
suffered enough. We have
So
suffered
let
enough.
let
We
let
have
God is
suffered
looking
enough.
at us and He's saying these people, let me just protect them, and all of that. So, but we should not take it for granted. We shouldn't take the mercy of God, the
Exactly.
grace of God for granted. We should not.
For granted.
Let us now begin to use our head to ensure that, for example, you have the state hospital, teaching hospital, the BMH, and then we have the teaching hospital, and most of the
UPTH, yeah.
hospitals, you
That's
find out
Rivers
that
State, yeah.
for all I care, they are largely dispensaries. Largely dispensaries.
We saw that during this COVID wave, of course. We saw
That's the
that.
point I'm making.
It was all over the country.
It will be
For
shameful.
every
It will be
news we
shameful.
heard.
It will be shameful if we have another situation and we start running around the whole places, building
The
tents.
same way
one
we
more
ran around from March. Exactly.
God will not forgive anybody who, in another 1 year or two, decides to build tents again because that's a panic. We have buildings.
I remember. Let me make you laugh. Let me make you laugh. In my home state, Kogi, there was this
Your
structure
governor
they put up, and if you see how
you didn't say your
home
home
state
state.
now,
How can you say that's your
home
home state?
state where I was born now, my home state.
I'm not aware that your husband is from Kogi.
I know, and that's why I said, oh, you these Nigerians. Okay, my former state, Kogi, right?
Okay,
They
where your
built
father
these
from?
tents,
The state
and
where
the
your
thing
father is
was
from.
where my father, yes, and it was
Where your father is
ravaged by a storm.
from.
It was ravaged by a storm, and when they gave the price tag for the cost of that tent that was ravaged by the storm, I just laughed, and it was like, it's not like putting a price tag on the lives of the people, because then I don't think they ever got around to building another isolation center.
So in
The thing
summary,
here is this.
in summary,
Yes.
we must prepare against the possibility of a next health crisis by ensuring that a state like River State must have at least one hospital that we can say
Okay.
this is our shield in the meantime. But unfortunately, we come from a region, we come from a place where people who were medical doctors before they got into politics made money as politicians and ended up building hotels.
Instead of building hospitals, quick one,
Very much.
Mr. Wally. There's this person who has been trying, Miss Winnie Omuboba Morganson. She's requesting that she would love to join in. We're not planning on. I just crave your indulgence to give us some more time. This is a different streaming platform.
I'm actually unemployed, so I'm here.
Okay. There you go again. So this is a streaming platform, so we don't have that time constraint that you do have if you're just streaming live on Facebook. So we're going to put you on now, but before we do that, or as we do that, when she comes in, she'll just allow you finish what you have to say. You've talked about food security. Wabie came in and we spoke about responsibility of setting demographics towards the political process and all that, and you also pinned on health services as two major areas that the government should look into improving posts. Somebody said doctors building hotels, epic posts this season. One other thing I would want you to touch on is what do you think? Isn't it possible for Nigeria to truly adopt after this season the participatory system of governance? This thing about just passing piecemeals to the people whenever they feel like piecemeal, don't you think it's possible to just adopt the participatory system where the people can actually say, this is what we want, this is what we require, this is what we need?
Are you bringing Winnie on first, or you want me to talk first?
No, just talk a bit. She's already in the waiting room. I just want to,
There is
because I don't know
nothing
what
wrong. See, let me just make this very clear, abundantly clear. There is
Yeah.
absolutely nothing wrong with the system of government that we run. Nothing. The problem is that those who run the system need psychiatric attention. You understand? That's the problem we have.
Okay.
When you see the right thing that you need to do, you decide to do the wrong thing. There is something wrong with you.
Then it's a mental issue, yeah.
Yes. And that's why I keep telling people that if you have 100 people in government, 80 to 85%, I can bet anything that you want me to bet with, will not pass a psychiatric test.
Wow.
They will not. Don't forget that we're in the country, somebody, a public officer said that a medical doctor was appointed head of projects to manage COVID. If a medical doctor cannot manage a health emergency like Jesus Christ. And there were actually people who were defending that position. So
really
it is
sad.
not about the
really
system
sad.
of government. It's not about the system of government. It's about the people who are running the government. Those who have no commitment.
The people.
Right. Let me
Like
tell you.
putting square pegs in round holes.
The election between Nixon and Kennedy, there were allegations of rigging. There were mooted complaints of rigging. The election between Gore and Bush, there were allegations of rigging.
Yes, rigging, exactly.
You understand? What did the system do? They made so much noise about it. People talked about it. What were they trying to do? To ensure that it never happens again. What do we do? In our own country, because we are lawless, there's no consequence for irresponsibility in Nigeria, which is why people decide that irresponsibility is a way of life.
It must thrive in that way. Exactly.
You understand? So you have a situation where rather than trying to plug ways of electoral malpractice, people are coming up with more dynamic ways of sabotaging the electoral system. There is nothing wrong with our laws. Nothing. Absolutely.
The laws
they can be better. They can be better, no doubt about it. But the point is that the one we have is enough. The problem that we have is that our democracy is run like a chieftaincy institution, where chiefs they die.
Chief,
you understand?
Do you know that's the thing? It's not like it's an oligarchy succession plan.
Point.
It's almost as if
the king cannot die.
It's not an electoral process anymore.
You go wait till king die. If king not die, you cannot.
But you know, say actor no they die for film now. Actor no they die.
You understand? So that is the problem. When you have people who have that kind of native instinct and mentality about democracy, and that I must be in office. I must be in office by all means necessary.
Yeah.
And unfortunately,
my brother-in-law, my children.
The people patronize them. The people patronize them by supporting them morally, supporting them physically. Do you understand?
Yeah.
When you say, whether you like it or not, every man has a tendency to be dictatorial. But it's for people around them to say, no, this is not right. Don't do it. It can't be right. So I don't want to keep my Winnie waiting.
They can't say that. Yes. Winnie, please Winnie, we're ready for you. She just left the waiting room, but I'm sure she's back. Yes, Winnie, we're bringing you in right now. So let's just have you in the studio. You're welcome, Winnie. We have Winnie here. Hello.
Good evening.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Thank you.
Godfather, good evening. Yes, sir.
Good evening.
Yes, sir.
You threatened me. You threatened me earlier today that if I didn't give you a bit of this,
Okay, Godfather, I am particular about the process. You said something about the process, that because we are not participating in the process and then the formation of the government, we have to work on the process. And I am asking, a process that does not permit me to actually vote, the process in itself is defective. The process is defective. Ab initio, you don't even have opportunity to vote. Even when you come out to vote, you're scared of your life, and life does not have duplicates. So how can I participate in a process that in itself it is defective? How do I work on such a process?
I'm not going to flatter you. I'm not going to flatter you by saying that you're one person that is different from a lot of other people because of the
Yes.
way you've carried yourself, the things that you have campaigned, your advocacy, love and life and all of that. But again, don't forget
Yes.
that the people who make the police stations a
Yes,
dangerous venture to embark on are not adults.
Yes.
They are not people who you can say are in a position to take steps that will sabotage the election. They are just people who implement what people have somewhere structured. But you see, they have the opportunity to say, no, I can't be used to do this. Which is why I said, I'm not going to apologize to anybody when I say, if you must rig for the Nigerian youth.
Yeah.
Exactly. If you must.
Who are fed fat, who feel that Nigeria has become their personal estate.
They are Commonwealth. So
yes, sir.
What is trending yesterday and today on social media is what? Somebody who said, do you know me? Do you know who you're talking to? That's supposed to be.
I will deal with you summarily.
That's an adult. It's when people have that kind of military instinct. It is the civilians, the younger generation, rather, who should say, no, I can't take this rubbish. But Winnie, you agree with me quickly that those who take for example in the politics of today in River State, those who go to that naked the most are the younger ones.
True, sir.
You say something that's supposed to be in their ultimate interest. They will insult you, abuse you,
They'll be
abuse
offended. Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
It takes people with a hard skin. You understand? To be able to still participate and see how much you can contribute.
That also brings me to another point. Yes,
I can say for certain that if 100 people have come across me on the social media, especially Facebook, I can boast that I've been able to influence about 5 people to know that it is not right.
Five is a small number.
Well, I can say that it is not decent to insult somebody for disagreeing or for agreeing differently. People must get to understand that conversations are driven by individuals' experiences and what is perceived to be right.
Exactly, your reality.
If you don't listen to the person, he will not have the patience to listen to you for you to say, look, I don't think that you're saying is correct.
Exactly.
You understand?
Yes.
So if you started by backing at him, he will back. And what will you have? Not a conversation.
Definitely.
Not a conversation any longer.
You're going
to have a shouting match. So Winnie, I want to hear what you want to say.
Godfather, yes. Godfather, again, I want to talk about the youth. Now, I believe that a progressive followership can correct a defective leadership. Now, in a situation where you have people so myopic that anytime you try to rebel or anytime you try to say something different from what leadership has said or leadership has planned, you become a betrayer. We're in a system where you can't talk. When you want to air your view, is Obote, you are betrayed, you are this, you are that. And it becomes a problem for some of us who want to talk. You are just, it's like somebody is gagging you. You can't say a word because of the word betrayer.
The way let me
say, sorry, Godfather, let me just quickly interject and just say something.
Yes.
Yes. What I would just like to say is this. From what I observe from your generation, most of you, like, there are ways you put across your points. You see, Godfather has mostly been known or still been known as a rebel, but when you hear him put his point across, it can be so measured. People make the mistake of thinking that rebelling means your voice has to be at the top, it must be heated, it must be. Rebelling is not about a shouting match. It's about getting your facts right, knowing what has to be done. Most of your generation only like to identify what the problem is. You need to start challenging the process as he said. And one thing I
Okay.
hope most people will not misinterpret what Godfather said about being angry. The anger he's
Yes.
talking about is not anger of your body will be shaking. It's just
Yes.
realizing
if
that
your
a
body
paradigm
shaking,
shift.
if your body shaking, it's going to drive fear
Yes.
into those who are bent on keeping Nigeria down. Please let your body shake. Let it just keep shaking.
No, but even as the body is shaking, even if as the body is shaking, Godfather, even as the body is shaking, there must be something that has to follow that body shaking. Your body
Yes.
should not shake to the extent that you will pick arms.
Okay, fine.
Yes.
I don't want to be saying
Your body
our
should
head to be.
shake and you have, and that's what I mean by body shaking.
I don't want anybody to say that I was
Yes.
me that said it should carry arms. But what I'm going to say is this. Let
Yes, sir.
the younger ones, on a more serious note now, let the younger ones learn to read.
Yes.
Read.
But
Read,
that's the
read,
truth.
read. Read biographies, read autobiographies, read stories about other countries, read stories about freedom, watch movies, watch documentaries about freedom.
Yes.
I give a practical example. Fidel Castro was not born, it was never a soldier.
Yes.
Fidel Castro was a trained lawyer. What drove him into rebellion was that he couldn't get justice in the courts.
Yes.
Today, Cuba is not, they are not where they want to be. But Castro left Cuba better than he met it.
Yes.
Che Guevara left Argentina to come and rebel in other
Argentina.
parts of South America. So you know that people must know that as a price you pay
Yes.
for saying no to a decadent system. That's a price. Don't think that it's going to be roses. It will never be a walk in the park or a bed
It
of
won't be a
roses.
walk in the park.
It
It
will
won't
never
be.
be. Be ready. Say to yourself, I'm ready to lose some friends. I'm ready to lose some friends if what I'm going to do is in the ultimate interest of society. I went on a campaign with my friends about 2-3 years ago. I hurt a couple of my friends. But I was more convinced, or rather concerned, about the ultimate interest of my state. Let people know that it's okay. It's very okay to disagree
It's
with people.
okay. It's okay.
It's
It's
okay to
okay.
disagree with people. But don't be
It's okay.
disagreeable. Don't just say
Yes,
no
sir.
for the heck of it. Don't wake up and go to a meeting
For the
because
heck of
if
it.
I go to that meeting, anything Winnie says there,
I go
anything
say
Osa says
no.
there, you say no.
Yes.
I go say
Yes.
So
no.
before you go to the meeting, you use cotton wood.
Your
Cotton
mind
wood.
is already.
Okay, yeah, whatever came and says it cannot be right. I'm not. Oga, if he says abuse for that meeting, I made that mistake growing up.
Meanwhile, what did he say in that meeting? No clue.
You don't even know.
But
I made that mistake growing up when I first joined politics. Somebody will say, "Oga, what they talk nonsense." I'll look at the person, look at this idiot, talk. I'll walk away. But my dear, today you will walk away from me.
Yes.
I'm going nowhere.
and you
I will
know,
say what I
with
want to
hindsight, with hindsight, you would have there's so many things you could have done back then, but you allowed, you
Yeah,
had been the gentleman and you walked
it
away.
wasn't just me. It wasn't just me. A lot of us made what I call the mistake of 1999. When we felt it wasn't going to work. People came from the different polos, different obliges, rural areas. Some who Port Harcourt, their swearing day as members of the assembly was the first day they came to Port
Was their first time in Port Harcourt?
How can you
Port Harcourt,
understand the
yes, I
dynamics?
heard so. I was in that town then.
I don't want us to dwell. That's a bit personal. So I just think that because when he's talking about fear, everything comes to the price. That's what I think you should do. I'm not asking you to go and get killed. Don't be scared of making enemies because you're saying the right things. No.
Yes, sir.
I mean that they don't kill me. You with all sorts of humility. I've not been some silly boys like Ross Alabo George and what's his name? Robinson. silly, stupid boys. I just wish that they're listening. They will say I'm a maverick. They will call me all sorts of things. But it's okay. From time to time, I knock their heads together. But those are people I'm very proud of anyway, any day, anytime. But the point I'm making here is people are going to call you names. But you
Yes,
see,
sir.
what matters to you, and when you go to bed at night, do you sleep well? Is your conscience clear that you have said the right thing?
Is your
Even if you
conscience
said the wrong
clear?
thing, even if you said the wrong thing, take solace in the fact that when you said that thing, you were fully of the impression that you were saying the right thing.
You were saying the right
Yes.
thing, and you're open to
Because
scrutiny anyway.
nobody's perfect. Nobody is perfect. So back
Yes,
to the
sir.
issue of the process. We must all begin to engage the system from the process of the election process, the campaign. Learn to say no. Go to form groups. Go to your small units. Tell people not to collect money. Let them know you have a program. Let them know that the day you collect money from somebody, that person does not run a charity organization. He has to
Yes,
recoup
sir.
that money he spent for an
He has to
election.
recoup
True.
the
True, sir.
money.
True.
You
That's
understand? So
The
what
that
piper, the
is
idea,
pipe,
so
and the
corrupt.
pipes.
anybody who
Yes.
comes to you in an election offering you money has a very bad plan.
True. True.
You understand?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So
Okay.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
very much.
Thank you.
Winnie,
I'm okay.
thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. It was nice having
Thank you.
you. Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
the
you
other
very
side, the
much.
other side
Thank you very much.
I want us to deal with too. One of the benefits of COVID is COVID made it
Okay.
possible for us to know equally, or reminded us on the need for us to
Okay.
improve our infrastructure.
Power infrastructure. Okay.
Yeah. You keep people at home, and then you expect them to obey stay-at-home order in darkness.
In heat, you know, there was
Do you
actually
understand?
some uprising in
Because
some
before
areas
then, for
in
before
Lagos. I don't
then,
know if they had it in other places.
people go to pubs to just air themselves. Certain place they go to watch soccer, enjoy the AC, take enough AC
Mm-hmm.
that they will store to go to their homes to go and sleep with. Do you understand?
Exactly.
Yeah, so we need to understand that it would have been a lot easier for people to obey the stay-at-home order if they had power
If
and
we had this comfort.
at
Yes.
affordable rate. Do you understand? So we must do something about power. We must. There's no other way of going around it. Government must, the state government and the federal government must collaborate to do something about
Exactly.
power. We must resist the temptation and the blackmail of what do you call them? The disco,
Generator
whether
and diesel
disco
people and all that. Yeah.
or nightclub, whatever they call themselves, disco, nightclub, whatever name they call themselves. Those people who provide, I don't care what name
Yes.
they want to answer, but government must do what is needful and what is necessary to make
But
sure
you
the
know, they
Nigerian.
said they also accuse the cabals, the people who bring in generating sets and the diesel guys, the cabal. They also accuse them of being culpable in this power issue in the country. What do you think?
Nobody don't fail exam before we no get reason why him fail. Other
Okay.
people are not like me. I have I just hope he's not watching or he won't hear this. My elder brother, my only surviving brother,
Mm-hmm.
while he was in primary school, he had a bad result at a primary two or so, primary one or primary two. He had a bad result. I'm whispering so he doesn't hear.
Somebody will call him. Oh.
So in the course of why did you not do well? He said, because they are carrying with car every time they are carrying with car to school. That is why.
Oh my goodness. Oh
So
my
the point
goodness.
of- that's why he didn't do well because they are carrying him with car. Other police
And
mates are working.
he's now a lawyer now. He's now a lawyer, B.
He's a senior advocate, not just a lawyer. And from
As the son. So you see, already he knew how to marshal his case back
that's
then.
the point I'm making. That's the point I'm making that people always have an excuse for something. And
Winnie
we must
says she
not.
will tell him, or Winnie says she will tell him.
No, he won't hear. He won't believe Winnie. Winnie won't even do that. She won't hurt him. So the point I'm making here is that
Okay.
people must agitate in specific terms for the things that can make society better. And
Okay.
whether you like it or not, COVID was a terrible experience.
It was a
Terrible.
terrible experience.
Yes, but from it, we're able to see And don't forget that it gave us the opportunity of sitting back at home and reflecting. It brought some families
Yeah.
closer.
Closer.
It brought some
Closer, I did.
families closer. Yes. You
Yeah,
know,
it did.
ordinarily, I look at my little daughters, probably they just take them to school, and I'm running around the whole place begging for what to use to feed them and all of that. But COVID kept all of us at home for 3 months. Begin to imagine what impact that has had on those kids. They get to see me from morning
Yeah,
to night.
yeah, I know.
Do you understand? Yeah.
Yes,
Even at they're still complaining, They're still
I
complaining.
know.
When I hold my meetings at the back
Because
of the
they've
house,
gotten used to it.
yes.
Yes.
But what I'm trying to say here is that COVID made people to stay back at home and then reflect on a lot of things. That was one good thing that we got from God. And it is that reflection
Yes, it
that I'm
was.
talking about, that people will begin to reason, to ask the proper questions about, or they interrogate government better, because we have a first-hand knowledge or
Exactly.
experience of the things that are wrong with our system. We're seeing them. They're no longer people talking about them. We're feeling them. We're feeling the fact that we can't feed. We're feeling the fact that the
We
hospitals are
feel
not
them
working.
firsthand.
We're feeling
We
the fact
feel
that
them. Yes.
nobody's going to tell me again. Like we'll say, my people will say that you can tell a blind man that there's no oil in the soup, but you can't tell him that there's no salt. Now we
Exactly.
saw everything firsthand. Do you understand? And then I think, and I want to
Yes.
believe that if government is not wicked, government at all levels, state and look and federal, if they're not wicked, the experience that we got from COVID, it's enough to take this system to another level entirely.
Yeah,
But you see,
because everybody will have had to unlearn
yeah,
to learn again.
yeah. For example, I mean, some of the big men died. I'm sorry, because they couldn't fly them abroad.
A lot of them did.
Do you understand?
A
Even
lot
those
of
who
them did.
survived, if you see this, the torture they went through, the fear, or that they couldn't go for their
Yes.
checkups. Do you understand? Get
They
onto the
couldn't
next
go
flight.
over there abroad. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They now know that it is important. I'm not even talking about.
The
I'm not talking
importance.
about public sector. I'm talking about private sector, where doctors will learn to stock their hospitals with nurse facilities that
Yeah.
people will use.
Yes.
Do you understand? One more time, I will
Yeah.
just repeat it for emphasis. Let doctors stop building hotels. Yes.
I knew you were going to say
COVID,
that.
COVID,
I knew you were going to say
COVID,
that.
COVID,
Wow.
COVID
Wow.
made that
Wow.
known.
Wow. 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 This
There's no
session
reason
has
why
been
universities do not
superlative.
have at least one specialist, health specialist center, whether cardiology
Center.
or neurology or whatever.
Or whatever.
And again, it further
Whatever.
exposed the wickedness of the multinational corporations doing business in our region. How do you
God
rationalize the
have
fact
mercy.
that neither Health nor Shell nor whatever you call them, Ajip or whatever, do not have hospitals that are specialist hospitals that people can go to? How do you know?
So
How
what has
much
their
will it
CSR been about all these years?
it's tokenism? Their CSR is tokenism. Tell me what
Tokenism, I
it will
tell you.
cost Shell. Tell me what it will cost Shell, Elf, Mobile, all of them, each of them, to say, okay, every year we remove 500 million naira from our budget to fund
Yes.
our public hospital. Tell me,
even
why,
if they choose not to fund the public hospital, they can form a consortium.
No. I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about public hospital rather per se. I'm talking about public hospital funded by the oil companies.
Funded by them. Okay, yeah.
Shell has their own. Shell has their own hospital, right? Don't they? They have a hospital, small that serves their small community. You understand? Tell me why a multinational like Shell cannot build some hospital somewhere in a region where they do business.
Yeah.
Tell me why Elf should not have at least 100-bed hospital in Omoko. Do you understand?
But they will easily cite insecurity. They will easily cite
I'm sure
insecurity.
you want me to break the screen of this whatever I'm using to do this program. What is security?
So that's what they will say.
Insecurity, but they're able to drill.
They're able to drill, exactly. That's what
I'm
I
sure
don't
they have labs
understand.
where they manufacture
I
crude oil.
just don't understand that. They will always cite that when it's convenient for them.
It's because of
And you know now,
wrong-headed advocacy too. Because if we're engaging some of these people, we should be able to make it known to them that certain things that they must do. They must do those things. Do you understand?
I'm
I
telling
insist.
you,
There's no
I think
reason why,
so.
either as individuals or as a collective, the oil companies doing business in Port Harcourt or in River State cannot probably go to maybe some remote place in Goni land or Kalabari Kingdom or Abua or Hoda, somewhere outside Port Harcourt, and build a
Yes.
specialist hospital.
I think there must
Why?
be advocacy for a benchmark. I think this thing you're saying is the truth. There must be a
That's why
benchmark for engagement.
I keep returning to the people. Let the people make the right type of noise. Do you understand?
But you know this is possible.
What is difficult about it? Michelle cannot spend 500
This is
million naira
possible, very
on a
possible.
hospital run by
Bobby, I hope
them.
you are still on. I hope you are listening. Winnie, I hope you are listening.
Run. I'm talking about these
This
oil
is an
companies
opportunity for advocacy. Yes.
hospitals
Yes.
run by these people. Don't give government money. Don't go and give any donate or innovate one.
Exactly.
Build it by your own standards. Do you understand?
Yes.
Fund it by your own standards and run it by your own standards. Let that be your own CSR.
And run it by your own standards. Exactly. Exactly.
Don't go and use bitumen and spread on one useless place and say you have done a road.
And say that is CSR.
Or maybe you come and spread
You
like
can just imagine how many lives will have been saved.
They start bringing money to buy rice and distribute, or buy protective gears for what do you call it, for the
Do you know?
hospitals.
I'm beginning to understand your need for anger. I'm beginning to understand your need for anger. But you
Anger
know, this
is
thing
the
is just like it's an eye
anger
opening.
anger is the answer to the question of development and good governance in our system.
It's anger. It's anger.
If you don't
Anger.
show anger, people will think that all is okay. All is not right.
Anger.
The system is not functioning properly. And if we
I've
keep shutting our
learned
mouth,
one major
is
thing
left.
today. Apart from anger, you said something about you can disagree without being disagreeable.
Precisely.
Do you know, even for me, I know I'm not in their age bracket of whatever that age, but I think that's what has been stopping most people from having this understanding. Because
Nobody should be
if we
scared.
keep
Nobody should be scared of being insulted because you're saying something that you think is in
the
the best interest
truth.
of society. Everything comes with a
But you know,
price.
for a very long time, Mr. Wali, you've been practically on your own in this thing. You know, you've stood resolute. It's like some people, you know, they'll come and go. You know how it is. They say people can't eat when their mouths are full and all of that. But you have kind of stood resolutely. And I think in a way,
Maybe because they've not called me. Maybe because they've not called me. Wait till they call me. When they call me, if I answer, then I know whether I'm going to talk while I'm still eating. But until now,
I beg.
that, the voice of the opposition is loudest when they are far from power. As they come towards power, the voice begins to drop.
No, but Mr. Wali, you have been close to power and your voice has stayed consistent. So let's leave that one. That one is tough for another day. You've always
I have friends who are in power and within the corridors of power. I'm not even inside the yard. I've not been inside the yard of power.
whatever.
So
That is whatever, but I believe what there's one other thing because you said so many things here. You talk about food security, you talk about health services, you've talked about power infrastructure, and you brought up an angle when you were talking about the multinationals, you know, the role they ought to play. And you know, with this COVID thing, so many multinationals, they've had their people work remotely and all of that. And I think they're beginning to see that things can still go on, you know, remotely and all that. And I fear that will probably make them not see the importance of doing as they should. So I think this issue of righteous indignation, if I can put it like this. Wabi has said here on the thread, he said, "I'm angry." Wabi, I'm glad that Mr. Wale has been able to provoke this anger in you, and I hope you can run with it. Mr. Wale, I know you might have something else to say, but I just want to quickly, for us to address the elephants in the room. And I'm doing this because I know that you have an understanding of.
I never told you I was a zoologist.
Leave me alone. Your humor. Anyway, I just want us to address this, and I know I'm doing it because you understand the legalities of the matter and everything. CAMA is an important trending issue in the polity. Karma, this karma thing.
That's the companies
For those who probably for those people who really don't understand it and might be up in arms, I will just want you to give your. Winnie is laughing because you say you're not a zoologist. I would just want you to just give your more than 2 cents, obviously, and just quickly take us through a small understanding of what the karma law is all about.
I'll just simply say that karma, the abbreviation for the Company of Allied Matters Act, is the karma of those who decided to turn religion into an enterprise. What is this all about? All the noise you're hearing, it's simply that people must give accounts of public trust. The church is a public trust. Just as the word says, trustee. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Right? Now, when you have an association, you understand, or you create any kind of system, and you have trustees, what it simply presupposes is that you're holding the management and matters related to that management or to that association in trust for the larger group. And you must be accountable to that larger group. So what karma is saying is that if, for example, there's a church established and you have board of trustees of that church, the affairs of that church must be open to the membership of the church. I'm using church now because I'm not a Muslim. Excuse me.
Yes.
So when it gets to a point, just like a regular company, then you declare profit and loss. And how do you do that? Audited account of that company. So what karma is simply saying is that you cannot do with the funds or the assets of the church as you deem fit, simply because you are the principal partner in the enterprise. And they accuse government and are screaming over the whole place about the president signing assenting to the bill. And I've asked, these people who are angry over the president assenting to the bill, where were they during the period of legislation? I'm aware that any bill will go through the first reading, the second reading, and the third reading. Are we saying that there are no Christians of different denominations in the National Assembly who would have heard? I'm assuming, without conceding here, that the provisions of the act are against the church. I'm just assuming that. Let's even assume. Where were the Christians in the National Assembly?
During the first reading, the second reading, and ultimately the third reading.
Why did you have to wait till it gets to President Buhari and he assents to the bill? Oh, it's part of the Islamization policy of the federal government. Sound bites. It sounds well, but they end up exposing themselves. But the other side of it is, which is something that is not new, everybody's talking about it. You have a church with branches in Europe. Whatever provisions you have in the Kama, you understand, are not peculiar to Nigeria. We just literally imported them, not word for word, but in principle. Why are you obeying the laws outside? In Nigeria, you will obey. It's just starting about the
When you
Nigerian
can't
man.
obey
I
them
don't think you understand. Somebody will come and say, "I will not obey it." You will not obey what? And I've told those who care to know, you should go and tell them. You understand? Because ordinary policeman that just got recruited will arrest them and they will jail them. It's the law of the land. There's not like a bad law. A law is a law. You understand? There's not like a bad
law
law.
is law,
There's not
yeah.
like a law anywhere. It is the law of the land. Until that law is changed, it is law of, and it amounts to the highest level of irresponsibility for a church leader to say he's going to disobey the law of the land.
So what
If
you're
you
saying
feel
essentially is that Kama is a protective law that will make church leaders accountable to the people who also put their trust in them. Is that what you're saying?
that is the LCM of this whole grammar. So that no person will now own a church and now spend church money the way he likes. Do you understand? And no minister, no government official will just wake up one morning and go and dissolve the board of trustees of any church.
Board of trustees of any church. Okay.
Yes, there must be a reason for somebody to go to court and say, we feel that the affairs of this church or the trustees are not managing their just. They need to. Which then somebody will say, no, you can't continue. I mean, it's just common sense. If you're not running the place well, then you have to give way. After all, if I have a company, if you like, we're in this country, we have seen banks that were owned by individuals, and because they became
they've been taken over.
Conduit for siphoning public funds or for ripping people off, government stepped in and seized the banks literally, and gave banks some level
eventually
confidence.
Returned. Yeah.
Do you understand? So I do not think what people should be saying is that, what do we do to ensure that there's transparency in the affairs of the church?
And the trustees.
Now,
trustees even administering this thing.
I've not heard any Catholic priest or Catholic bishop complain about Kama. Maybe they have. I've not heard. I've not had an Anglican complain. I've not. Maybe I'm not listening to TV enough. I'm not reading papers enough. But I've not. The people who are complaining are those who have converted the church into private business.
Wow. Mr. Wali, I'm just glad you threw light on the Kama issue. Well, we actually have run out of time, but I just want to quickly do a recap of the things we have learned from Mr. Wali today. Yes, go ahead, please.
Before you do a recap, there is a silent but very profound and fundamental benefit we got from COVID.
Which is?
The need for our society to take more seriously the development of IT.
Yeah. You got that.
Now, people
should that be part of the developmental policies? Because should that be part of the developmental policy that we should see moving forward?
Yeah. Part of it, even self-development. I'm sure that we wouldn't have had this program on this medium before COVID.
No, definitely, because you won't believe it. I spent so much time this season, learning all of this platforms I never knew existed. I started. So you're really saying the truth. I accept and assent
So
to that.
you find out
I
that
think
people
it's
now
true.
hold meetings, you now hold virtual meetings. I mean, the same decisions that you'll have arrived at with the risk of air travels, road travel,
Yeah.
congestions on traffic and all of that, that you can actually stay in the comfort of your room, your sitting room, your office, and hold meetings with people in Indonesia, people in Paya, and all over the world. Do
Then
you
even
understand?
schools as
No, people
well.
yeah. That brings me
Schools.
to the issue of, that's where I was going to go there. You know,
Okay.
University of Port Harcourt, I was told by no less a person than the acting vice chancellor that some years ago they were granted the what do you call it? Is it license now? Is it license or something to run a virtual education program with international assistance?
Wow.
Now,
Wow.
somehow, the university authorities did not pursue that to its logical conclusion. That thing died a natural death. Now, just imagine that was
If it had taken off.
taken off. Uniport and probably other universities that will have copied what Uniport was doing would not have had this much heat from COVID. And then you begin to ask yourself, why are we not doing enough? Why are we not doing enough and placing a lot of emphasis on IT in the schools? Today, you have the private schools. We're further creating a gap between private schools and public schools. The private schools can afford to even stay at home till December, till the end of 2021. All they need to do, the parents will just pay extras. And the children are learning online.
Exactly.
What about those poor children
Of course.
in public schools?
That don't have access
But the
to this.
danger is that the more you get, you stop the poor children from going to school, you're creating more social problems.
More social problems, yes, because then
more
starts disparity.
Because at the end of the day, these your children you're giving high wire education, they will still come and operate
meet
in the
these other
same
ones.
market, the same street, with people who are angry. Society has been
Yeah.
compared to.
And you forget that there are social alternatives. There are social alternatives for these children who cannot have access to this thing. There's many other things that they spend their time doing that might be counterproductive for your own children who are doing this something school. Quick one, I just want to just say
Don't
something. I
forget,
remember
they say
back
the
then,
devil is the idle, the idle mind is the playground of
the
the
devil's
devil.
workshop. Exactly. We've seen a lot of that during
So
this
if
lockdown on
while the
certain
rich
platforms.
Why the rich are getting their children educated through virtual platforms, we are creating more devil workshops.
On the streets. And not just
So
on the
government
streets,
will
like,
comment about it.
yes, and there's one thing I just wanted to say quickly about education as you're talking about the development of IT. I remember back then, 2008, 2009, I remember I was really studying, there's what they call the Jordan Education Initiative, the Kingdom
Okay.
of Jordan. Back then, through PPE, this private partnership participation in the educational sector, they planned, in fact, I don't even know this season, if you read what the children in Jordan did during this COVID time, because as far back as 2008, they've been prepared for a time like this. I remember back then, with a couple of people, we came up with proposals and submitted them. They never saw the light of day. There are so many educational initiatives that Nigerian government can now start keying into. We can't talk about the past. The past is dead and gone, but we can start. Because you see this thing that you say we can do because COVID and all that, there are still people who are way back. They are in the dark in this country. You've just spoken about some of them, the children who don't have access to online education. During the pandemic, at least for Lagos State, I remember the governor now said something about on Lagos television, they were doing teaching series and all of that. And some people ask the question, there's no power. How are the children supposed to learn via television? There is no this. So whichever way we look at it, there's a domino effect. When one sector is affected, it will definitely affect another sector. So, from what you're saying today, are you simply saying this change should start with the government or with the people? So we can just wrap up from there. Whether it's in the educational sector, it's the health, it's the power. Winnie said it, we can't have access to the people in government who have the power to pass all this legislation that will help our people. So, what are your parting words? I know the conversation cannot end here. This is just the beginning of the narrative that you've encouraged us to make sure we change. But what do you think you can say that will run with as per all these things you have
Well,
said so
well,
far?
I still will get back to the point when I say that
Okay.
it will begin with the people. The change will begin with the people. When we begin to ask critical questions, when we begin to listen to ideas, like those who have ideas, we listen to them and run with the ideas, and not judge them by where they come from. You understand, or the size of their car, but generally, what does the person have upstairs? You understand?
Okay.
You have young men,
Okay.
who can be encouraged to do stuff, even if it's the
Yeah.
politics. We all do not have to hold positions. We all do not have to get
Okay.
involved in the management of affairs of the state. But those who identify to have the
Okay.
capacity, we should push them and push them. And one way of doing that is popular participation. Popular participation in the sense that people will go to the polling booths, vote, defend their votes, because people will come and shoot. Who will come and shoot? If I stay in my village, who are the people who are going to come to the polling booth to go and cause mayhem? The people from the community. But if there's an agreement, you understand, within the people who say no, we want to do it right. When somebody yeah, stop it, carry a while ago, don't near this place. You have a process. But the point is,
Exactly.
if it's not holistic, people from different angles thinking about the same thing. Do you understand? What will happen is that village A will do the right thing, village B will do the wrong thing, and what will happen?
Do the wrong
It's easier
thing.
to destroy. It's a lot easier to destroy than to build. But if we all agree that we are sick and tired of all of these misadventures, these
We're sick
characters
and
that call
tired.
themselves,
That's the word. We're
yes,
sick and
these
tired.
characters that call themselves people in government, do you understand? Let us be mindful of who we entrust with the management of
Let
our
us be
commonwealth.
mindful of who we entrust.
That's where it starts from. That's where it
Let's be
starts from.
careful.
We might not get it all, but let us start somewhere. I repeat, politics and
Let's be
democracy
careful.
is not a sprint, it's a
It
marathon.
is a
It
marathon.
cannot,
Yes, you said
it
that.
cannot, it cannot. I give a practical example. Um, all over the world,
Mm-hmm.
people have been involved in politics. Imran Khan, the
Yeah,
Prime Minister of
Pakistan. Yeah. Yeah.
Pakistan, was just a showboy cricket player.
Yeah.
He came home. He didn't like the way things were happening.
And he
He
stood up.
didn't allow them to consume him. He formed his own political party. The first round of elections, they lost everything. He kept fit. Several years down the line, he's Prime Minister of Pakistan today. That's the way he
Exactly.
was.
It took him years.
For several years in the United Kingdom, the Tory party from the early 70s, well, one election after the other, one election after the
Mm-hmm.
other. He took what's his name? Whatever, I can't remember now.
Okay.
The first Labour Prime Minister in a long while. It didn't lead to a situation where Labour Party members were now crossed the story because they've been losing elections. No,
Mm-hmm.
which addresses the issue of people cross-carpeting. If anybody wants to cross-carpet, you let the person be. He knows what informed it, but it's not.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the way societies are built. Societies are built through tenacious pursuit of public good.
I got the guy's name, Ramsey McDonald. Is that his name?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, no, that's a long time. That's 1923
Yeah,
something. You're talking
yeah,
about most recently.
the prime minister that handed
Recently,
over
because
to.
Ramsey McDonald was the first ever in 1929. Okay, I
Anyway,
handed over to some other guy. Yeah.
the most important thing is that people remain faithful to the party, remain faithful to the system,
Mhm,
and eventually provided a credible alternative. President
mhm.
Muhammad Buhari ran elections for how many years? He could have jolly well joined another party. He kept faith, even when he felt that the party was part of was diluting the idea.
Was diluting. Yes,
He
I
formed his
got.
own
Are you
party.
sorry? I still have to this thing. So was it Tony Blair?
Tony Blair, yes.
Yeah.
Anthony Blair.
Okay, I'll just be sure because Ramsey McDonald was the first ever Labour Prime Minister. Okay, I got it.
We're talking
Okay,
about
Tony
a
Blair.
long time between Tony Blair
Continue.
and the
Yes,
last James Callaghan, so the last prime minister of
was a long
Britain.
time. Very, very
It was
long
a line
time.
between. But they
Yeah.
all kept food. All them Michael Foot, all of them. They lost elections. But
A lot
they
of
go back to the
years. A
next
lot
one.
of years.
You understand? So the point here is that people should remain consistent. People should try as much as possible
Wow.
to be faithful to the system.
Yeah.
And the country will be a better place, not just the state.
Exactly. My
So
goodness. You're
before I go
so
away,
right.
I just want to appeal to the younger ones to try and be a little bit more angry
Yeah.
and interrogate the system that they're part of, and not generally insult themselves, kill themselves, abuse themselves, and
And
get
tear their
unnecessarily.
clothes.
Despondency will not take you anywhere. It will not.
Exactly. Yeah,
What will take it somewhere is conviction.
that's true.
It might not be
And
today, but
before you go,
tomorrow.
I want to some other time. I want to just appeal to you, Mr. Wally. You know, you said something. You said read, read, read,
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
started talking about,
About other people's experiences. So
yes, no, I just need to urge you to do something. Do you know that it's very, very possible that youth can be engaged with book clubs? I'm not joking. Even if they're in political groups or something, they can actually start, by the time they read these stories of true life leaders who they can emulate, they would learn. When you sit in your meetings, you have your foundation. There can be a book
I don't
club.
want people to hold. It's not everything we say government book clubs.
I'm not saying
I
government. I'm
challenge,
not saying government. I said individuals,
yes,
not governments.
I challenge young people. They should come to me. They should go to people like Azubike Wanjoko, people like Blessing Wikina. They have wonderful libraries. Bike
Yes,
has a
that's
whole
it's
house.
not government.
And his book
I'm not talking about
is the
government. No,
yes. So let them learn to read. Let them just learn to read.
read and
Let them
learn.
watch documentaries. Let them watch documentaries about what happened to other people. You understand?
Yes,
Yes.
yes. So I guess there's hope for us. There is hope for us. I
Of
want to
course, there is
thank.
hope.
There's hope. I want to thank Winnie for weighing in. I want to thank Wabie for weighing in. Everybody who took time to view this program today. You know, with Godfather, 1 hour is certainly not enough. And
Now,
incidentally, as we all
you're
know,
using style to
Nigeria.
call me talkative, Abi.
Sir?
You're using style to call me talkative.
No, not at all. No, no, no. I actually want to say something. You know,
Who bankrolled that accusation?
I don't. Do you know who I am? Do you know
I
who
know
am
you.
I?
I know you. You're Mrs. Ananaba,
Okay. So,
the wife
like,
of
what
the
I'm
governor.
saying here. So what I'm saying in effect is this: Nigeria is actually turning 60 in a couple of weeks. 60 in a couple of weeks. And I'm using this opportunity to put the Godfather on full blast and say we'll be looking forward to having a town hall meeting. It's going to be virtual. It's going to be on a wider platform than this Zoom. So we can have so many people come in there. Godfather, you'll just be on full blast and you speak your mind. We'll have people interact with you because I think it's high time. One of the things we should take out of this COVID experience, we should get talking. we should get talking. We should get talking. And I'm so glad and honored that you made that time today to be with us. I know you've been very busy with the speaking circuit. You were on radio yesterday and all of that. So I appreciate you. I don't take it for granted. And I say to all our viewers, thank you very much. Thank you for just making this dream of mine a reality. I'm somebody who loves to talk, and I believe that in the multitude of talking, truth is established. Thank you very much, Mr. Kingsley Wenendawali. And to all our viewers, we say good night. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you for having me.
Thank
I'm here.
you.
United Nigeria, Nigeria can survive.